Hey, it's Adam from Splendid Sports. Back here in the garage. If you happen to catch the last video on this channel, it was a situation I was in where I had duplicates of a Tom Brady rookie card, two duplicates. So I ended up putting both of those cards up on my eBay store, up for auction. They're actually still under auction. And the reason I did it is because I had a hole in my collection, at least in my mind, where I didn't have any Tom Brady autographed cards. So I was able to purchase one of those, fill in that hole in my collection, and cover, hopefully, we'll see, cover the cost by putting those other two Tom Brady cards up for auction, which again close in 3 days. So we'll see what they end up selling for. I'm in a similar situation with vintage baseball. I have what I consider one of the great vintage baseball cards. And I'm going to sell one and I'm going to keep one for my long-term collection. The point of this video, though, is I want to get your feedback and get your opinion on if you would make the same decision. The decision is one of these cards is a PSA 8 and one of the cards is a PSA 7. Now, many people, maybe the majority, would keep the 8 for their long-term collection and sell the 7. Well, I'm doing the opposite. I'm keeping the 7 long-term, and I'm going to actually already the 8 is up on the eBay store, the Splendid Sports eBay store, and it's under auction. It's got 3 days left as well. It ends on Sunday night. It's got some pretty good action so far, some good bidding, as I thought it would. Now, I'm going to show the cards. You may have seen this card before. This, 1962, Manager's Dream. Two of really probably my two favorite baseball players ever. Mickey Mantle and Willie Mays. Great thing about this card, not only that you have those two on it, but if you look in the background, you have Hank Aaron on the right side there, with the back of Hank Aaron. Then you have Elston Howard and Johnny Roseboro in the background there too. The reason all those guys are together is this photo was taken from the 1961 All-Star game at Fenway Park. So it's just an iconic photo, iconic card, manager's dream. It really is a manager's dream. And, like I mentioned, I'm going to keep this 7, and I'll tell you why in a second here. And I'm selling the 8, which I'll show you right now. The 8 is right here. So I have a 7 and an 8. And if you look at both of these cards, I'll show you the 7 again first. Excuse me, I'll show you the 8. The 8, in my opinion, in every grading criteria, is a better condition card than the 7, other than the centering. If you look at the centering right to left, it's a little off-centered. Nothing drastic, but a little off-centered right to left. And then if you look at the 7, very nicely centered right to left. So for me, everyone has their different preferences, but for me, right to left centering has always been my number one thing that even when I was a kid collecting cards in the 80s, before I even knew about card grading, before card grading was ever a thing, before I even knew about what would be the criteria to grade cards other than if it was bent or creased, I always, when I would look at these cards, I would always, the right to left centering would always register in my head. I do remember that. And I would just always prefer the centered cards. So that's the way I collect now too. If I can find a centered copy like this, right to left, top to bottom, I'm not as picky. But if I can find one, I'm okay keeping a lower grade in my long-term collection because for me, at least, it has better eye appeal. Now, this is tough because, I mean, if you look, everything about this card other than the right to left centering is superior condition wise. It has better registration. It's a clearer picture, better coloring. It has almost no chipping. There's like one little chip, which is really, really hard to find in these cards. The corners are sharp. I mean, it's just everything about it screams a 9, mint 9 card other than the right to left centering. So that was the thing that brought it down to an 8, most likely. The other thing that's cool about this card is I was always a big and still am a fan of 1987 Topps. And this card, 25 years earlier, this set, excuse me, this is what inspired the 1987 wood grain background on those cards. The 1962 Topps was the original wood background. So one of my all-time favorite vintage cards. And I'm going to bring up the PSA pop report. So if you look here, there are 626 sevens. So that's what I'm going to keep, one of those 626. And I'm going to sell a PSA 8, which is pop only 204. There's 10 nines out there and 110 out there. Some lucky person is the owner of that 10. I'd love to even take a look at it just to see what it looks like. So, I'm as far as rarity and scarcity, I guess you would say I'm losing in that category, right? Because I'm getting rid of a card there's only 200 or so of, and I'm keeping one has triple the population. But I'm okay with that. And I understand from a money standpoint, the 8 will probably appreciate more over time than the 7. But I'm okay with it because this is going in the collection long term, staying in the collection long term, and for me it has better eye appeal. So that's the for people that might be watching that don't collect vintage yet or don't plan to. That is a big difference with vintage versus modern or ultra modern cards. If you ask someone who collects ultra modern and you told them you have a 8 and a 7 or even a 10 and a 9, it would be a no-brainer. You're going to keep the higher grade card for your collection if you're going to keep one and sell one, most likely, because the grade is everything. But with vintage, you've heard it before: buy the card, not the grade. Well, for me, this one has better eye appeal in my head as far as what I look for, what eye appeal means to me, and that's very large. A large portion of that eye appeal is right to left centering. So let me know what you think in the comments. Would you have done something differently? Would you have sold the 7, kept the 8 long term? Let me know. I appreciate you watching. Thank you.